Ah, hello. Sorry, just give me another minute or so. And hello. Welcome to still one of the worst ideas I have on the channel. Okay. I have notes this time. I actually, was smart enough to, prepare a notepad file. Maybe this time it'll run a little smoother that way, right? Hopefully. Who knows? You know how bad I am at doing things. But alright. So last time I did Dan Slott's Fantastic Four run, and I knew that if I ever did another stream like this, I wanted to do something on my second favorite book at Marvel. That being the Hulk, because he's fun. And I thought about it for a bit. I thought about doing my favorite run on the Hulk, which was Peter David's run, which ran throughout the late 80s to 1999, I think. He was on that book for over a decade, and it is kind of amazing because of that. Just one writer, entire decade. He was doing his thing, but that's also a gigantic book, and I don't feel like I could do that. I also thought about the first Hulk series I ever read, which was Planet Hulk. But again, it's oh, that's a little short. And also it has multiple adaptations now, so I didn't really want to touch that. So I decided to do my favorite modern run on comics, that being Immortal Hulk. And I figured, before we get into the book proper, I just kind of wanted to mention how I found the Immortal Hulk book, because like I just said, the first Hulk series I ever read was Planet Hulk, but that was back in 2006, and that was the only Hulk book that I had read. And I kind of just read that, went off and went, I don't really know if I did not consider myself a Hulk fan, just a fan of Planet Hulk. And one day, a few years back, I was browsing a comic shop, picking up the latest issue of the Fantastic Four. Oh, sorry, it looks like my internet dipped for a second, so they'll be buffering for a minute. Sorry. And I had enough money, I had a $10 bill on me, so I wanted to buy the new issue of the Fantastic Four, and I was gonna buy a second comic just to do it, right? And then I saw this one shot sitting on the shelf, and something about it just made me go, I'm going to pick this up. One, it's a one-shot, which means, you can read it by itself, self-contained thing, it's all good. But also, there's a bunch of Immortal Hulk one-shots, and they're all just, by different writers and things. Hey, it's flowery? Is it? That's not a flower, though. It's a hairpin. But yeah, there's a bunch of Immortal Hulk one-shots that are by various writers and artists that have their take on the Immortal Hulk brand. But I ended up reading this one because just this cover jumped out at me, and the book itself jumped out at me. It had this really melancholic tone that just kind of I found very gripping. It was very slow paced. Dialogue was very sparse. I loved the artwork, but it's a one-shot, so it has a guest artist on the book. Ah, hello, Michael. It was an Undertale reference. It's fine. What's an Undertale? And this one-shot got me interested into actually getting into the main title of Immortal Hulk, which is what one-shots are meant to do, right? Get you interested in the actual book itself. So to catch you up on the lead-in to Immortal Hulk, Bruce Banner wasn't the Hulk for a bit. He got his gamma drained. But he got it back and was like, fuck, this is awful. And this was around like Civil War II, right? And Bruce thought it would be an amazing idea to die, right? So he created these gamma-cased arrowheads and told Flint to shoot him in the brain and the heart to murder him. He was like, I'm tired of living. Cliff, murder me. And he does it, and that was kind of the end for Bruce for a bit. He was just like, just kind of dead. Kind of fun. But of course, this is the lead-in to the Immortal Hulk book. Also, I love the first cover of issue 1. Very iconic at this point. But the Immortal Hulk book started in June 6, 2018. I, of course, started reading it like a year or two later. I think it was about 2 years later. I think I started reading this at like in 2020. So I was like a little bit behind, as it were. But it's, of course, written by Al Ewing. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I feel bad because I really don't know. Quickly becoming one of my favorite current writers at Marvel. And most of the art of issues is done by Joe Bennett. Incredible artwork, and you'll be able to see that throughout this stream. I guess that's what I have to call it. But I will have to apologize for a moment. I will. Because I ask that you let me be a little self-indulgent with the next part of this stream. Because I will be reading issue 1. Because I don't know how else to explain the tone of Immortal Hulk besides just showing you. There are two people in every mirror. There's the one you can see, and there's the other one. The one you don't want to see. A man armed with a gun drives up to a gas station. A young girl quips with her mom before walking into the gas station to buy a drink for the road. The man pulls out his gun. God damn it. I'm already fucking up, so sorry. The man pulls his gun out on the cashier, threatening him to open the register. Panicked, the girl drops the glass bottle she was holding. Startled, the robber turns around to the direction of the sound and fires his gun. The girl drops to the ground, dead. A bystander starts to speak up just before the robber shoots him as well. The robber then takes out the cashier before taking the register and running away. Time passed. At a nearby town, within the morgue, a body thought to be still awakes. Suddenly, at the robber's hideout, a large creature smashes through the wall, disposing of all inside. Our robber from earlier escapes the building, trying to get to his car, but fumbles and drops his keys. Only after picking up his keys, he realizes how silent everything has gotten. Scared, the robber cries out, only to be greeted by a hulking mass.
Sandra. That was her name. She was 12. How does it feel in your hand? Heavy, right? All that stopping power. Heavier than it is at the range, even. You go to the range much, Tommy? It was heavier at the gas station, I'll bet. With the other targets.
No.
No. All that power, right in your hand. There wasn't some little part of you that wondering what you could do if you let the power loose.
He fires.
You know, on someone who deserves it, I mean. Know how I found you, Tommy. Because ever since you pulled that trigger, you've been lying to yourself, and I can smell a liar.
Please, I'm sorry, I know what I did. And I know I can never, but I'll go to the police. I'll tell them everything, I swear to God. I'll go to jail. Whatever punishment, whatever they did to me, or whatever they do to me, just let me. I'm not a bad person, am I? What do you think? And that is the end of issue 1. It is definitely a telling start to the comic. So during the promotional process up until Immortal Hulk, they were saying how writer Ewing was going to take a more horror take on the Hulk. And you can definitely see that in this first issue. But he also introduces a lot of, like, odd world-building elements and new rules to the Hulk, as it were. You have of course, the title, The Immortal Hulk. Because now, Bruce can die. But as soon as nighttime falls, this Hulk will take over and revive Banner. And I do say this Hulk, because this is a new version of the Hulk. This is not Savage Hulk, which everyone is used to. This isn't like one of the prior versions, like Professor or Joe, or even the Green Scar. This is a Hulk that Banner is actually scared of. He is... like, Banner is terrified by this version of the Hulk because of how much power he has over Banner. This is a smart Hulk that can even persuade him to do things when Banner is in control. It's... makes it so Banner loses even more control of his life, which of course scares him. But one of the things is, this Hulk can only exist at nighttime. So as soon as the sun drops, this Hulk can take over at any time, but it has to be nighttime. So those are kind of like the new-ish rules for this version of the Hulk. And a lot of the early issues are actually very episodic. It's usually this Hulk telling Banner to go somewhere subtly. It's always framed as Banner goes, I feel him pushing me in this direction. So you don't even have, like, this Hulk actually telling, like, audibly yelling at Banner to do something. Banner just feels it. So you'll have him, like, going to a town and usually getting involved with some sort of Gamma-related issue. But we also get a new character for this run on the Hulk, who will be a main supporting character who will come up off and on throughout this entire series. And her name is Jackie McGee. She is a reporter who has history with the Hulk, just personal history, and she's kind of hearing that the Hulk has been sighted, because of course, like I said, Banner is presumed dead, and so Banner's trying to keep a low profile. He doesn't want people to know he's back to life. He doesn't want people to know about this whole, like, immortal power that he has. He's trying to figure out what that means. And because of a Hulk sighting, McGee is like, I will find him for some kind of emotional closure. She doesn't really know what she wants out of this. But she's gonna go find him, right? Just, it is what it is. And after a handful of episodic adventures, McGee gets a phone call from one Mr. Walter of Alpha Flight. So Walter is a hero, a team member of Alpha Flight, like I just mentioned. He is the Sasquatch. He was Bruce Banner's roommate in college. And so when he found out about the Hulk originally, he was like, yo, that sounds lit. And so performs a similar experiment on himself, but instead of becoming like the Hulk, he becomes the Sasquatch. It's a whole comic books, right? Anyway, Walter is like, I'll help you track down Bruce. That sounds cool. So, he meets up with McGee, and they start, like, putting their notes together on where Bruce is, what's happening, because there are curious things happening with specifically Gamma-powered individuals within the world of Marvel. But we'll get to that. The main takeaway is that while at a bar, Walter is stabbed and admitted to a hospital because Walter got into a bar fight. He's not the most personable person on the planet, so it is what it is, right? Now, at the hospital, McGee is waiting to see how Walter is doing, waiting for, like, any news during his surgery, and curiously, a man sits down next to McGee. One Mr. Bruce Banner, which of course startles her. And Bruce has also been trying to figure out what's kind of happening with these, like, Gamma-powered beings. Like, something's wrong, but he can't quite figure it out. But of course, the surgery starts to go poorly, and Walter dies. But of course, as soon as he dies, he just immediately changes into the Sasquatch and starts to destroy the hospital. And also kills Banner. Just immediately. But this is also, I think this is the first time we get this quote from this Hulk. And this is something that gets brought up a lot throughout the series. and that's this version of the Hulk will usually say,
when you hurt Banner, I take it personally.
Which it calls into question what's the goal of this Hulk, right? Like, he's pushing Banner around to solve this mystery. And yet he also, which is like putting Banner in danger all the time. But he's also like punishes people for hurting Banner. Like, what's this man's goal? It's hard to parse at the beginning, as it were. But during the fight, so like as we saw earlier in issue 1, characters can see their gamma alters through reflections. So we saw it with Walter and the Sasquatch, we've seen it with Bruce and the Hulk already. But in this fight, Hulk sees, like while he's fighting the Sasquatch, he sees the Sasquatch's reflection in the mirror. But it's not Walter, it's not the Sasquatch himself. It is Bruce's father. Look at this Nicolas Cage looking ass motherfucker. I don't get it, but whatever. Which is concerning, right? Because if you don't know, Gamma Ultra sounds so anime. What else do you want me to call them, Dragos? They usually say alters within the comic itself. But if you are unfamiliar with the backstory of Bruce Banner, he does not have a very loving father. He physically abused Banner quite a lot as a child, beats him up constantly, like he's an alcoholic, so he would just make Bruce's life miserable, and also call him a monster and shit. So this, of course, prompts a very violent response in Hulk, because Hulk, of course, does not like Bruce's dad. He remembers all of those things. So it's a whole thing, right? Which just causes, like, Hulk to fight harder during the battle. And I'm sorry to gush about this, but I adore the panel layouts in battle scenes in this comic. They have the entire frame distort as if the physical comic book itself is moving to the momentum of the fight. Like, it's as if Sasquatch himself hit the edge of the page and it, like, is pushing it. It's really cool. They do that a lot throughout the comic. There's also, I don't think I kept any of these pages, but there's battles that get too hectic. It's paneled as if it's Polaroid photos being scattered across a page, like across a desk. So you have these, like, really weird manic page layouts. I'm a big fan, legitimately. It's pretty great. But the thing to take away from this fight is that this Hulk drains Walter of his gamma to revert him back to Walter. A way to just, let's just end the fight right now. I'll just take away your ability to even be the Sasquatch, right? And of course, McG, distraught and emotional after watching this whole experience, asks Hulk one question, and that question is, how do I do it? How do I get to be what you are? And Hulk simply turns around and says, just go home, McG. Go home. Not even willing to answer the question. And hoping that she'll probably stop following him after this whole event. Now, the scary part of this storyline is to end off this little story arc. When Hulk is walking out of the parking lot, he sees his reflection in the window of a car. And he now sees the reflection of Bruce's father. This gets Banner and Hulk kind of paranoid for a little while, and that makes sense, right? We don't really get a follow-up on this plot point for a while, so just keep that at the back of your mind, right? What was the next thing? So sorry, I have to, like, read my notes real quick. Right. So we get a nice little breather of just Banner kind of trying to collect himself of everything so far, because we've now gone through roughly 2 story arcs. We've had the episodic beginning of the book, along with like everything that's just happened with the Sasquatch. And so Banner is just, he's kind of not doing great. He's kind of just like, you know what, maybe I'll just do nothing, which upsets Hulk quite a bit, because of course in this book Hulk has a mission that he wants to do, and he has to try to like push Banner to do that. Also, Bruce looking kind of good in these pages, right? It's not just me, right? Bruce looking all right. But the next story arc begins with Banner trying to get around the countryside. And he is confronted by the Avengers. The Avengers have finally found out Banner's alive. We're taking him in. So they do manage to defeat Hulk. Which, the fight's cool, but it doesn't really feel like Hulk is really fighting that hard. At least, like, that's my interpretation of the fight. Maybe tired because of Bruce. Maybe Bruce is holding him back, but it is weird that he would just, like, lose. Or maybe this is just, like, Marvel mandate. We have to make Carol look like the coolest thing on the planet still. Because we were in full swing of that still at the time. Anyway, they take Hulk into custody, and specifically he gets transported to a secret government facility to be experimented on. I don't think the Avengers were aware of that, but it's kind of fucked that it happened, right? I think so. Because we get this kind of hysteric, because Hulk can't die, and neither can Banner, right? So you have this, like, sadistic scientist that's like, I can just keep cutting open your heart and studying it, and it won't go bad. It will just regenerate. So I can just run experiments on the Hulk forever. This is great! So we get, like, a Hulk and a bunch of his organs and limbs just in jars. It's a pretty weird visual. But it is what it is. Of course, this does not last too long. And Hulk, of course, gets freed and gets his revenge on this scientist. You have this amazing 2-page spread of him murdering this scientist by just healing himself around him. Suffocating this man to death. This Hulk does not care. He does not care about the lives of others. Even Savage Hulk, like, does care about property damage and, like, the lives of people. So, like, even if he destroys a city, he's like, oh, I'll try to make sure there's no, like, deaths involved. Like, Savage Hulk, he tries to pay attention. This Hulk does not care. He's like, fuck you. You jarred me. I kill you. But of course, this prompts... So, of course, over this arc, members of Alpha Flight, because Carol was kind of part of Alpha Flight for a bit. Of course, Walter gets brought back into Alpha Flight, and they are now trying to capture Hulk, doing their own thing. And they recruit people like the Absorbing Man and Titania and Puck and all these characters I'm sure all of you are familiar with. And they form a team called Gamma Flight, specifically to take care of the Hulk problem. So you have the Absorbing Man fighting Hulk, and the Absorbing Man is like absorbing Hulk's gamma, while Hulk is also absorbing his gamma, but they're expending so much gamma in the fight that they start to just like deteriorate over the course of the battle. But of course, the person who gave Creel, the Absorbing Man, this extra gamma power, had a plan, and we don't really know what, but during the fight, so much gamma is expended that a door opens. So I haven't mentioned it until now, but doors are a visual motif in this comic. Like, every time a gamma-powered person comes back to life, they always mention how they went through a door, a green door. So a gigantic green door opens over this desert, and it just drags in everyone who is in the fight. Also including Jackie McGee, our fellow reporter woman, because she's still doing it, right? She's like, no, I'm still after the Hulk. I need my story. I need closure, damn it. So she gets dragged into this door, along with, like, the rest of Gamma Flight and Hulk himself. And they end up in this red desert, this destroyed landscape. And as McGee is like, where the fuck are we? Hulk's only real response is, isn't it obvious? Welcome to hell. So they're just like in hell, because of course when like, the Gamma characters die, they still go to the below, is what they've been calling it. And you can just use like a gamma door to get back to, like, to just bring yourself back to life, or at least the Gamma characters can. So all these characters are just in hell now. It's a lot of fun. I think this volume was called like Hulk in Hell. It's kind of edgy, but it is what it is. But of course, they're just wandering around in hell for now. Oh, also, Banner is separated from Hulk. Within hell, they split off as two separate entities. So Banner is missing, and Hulk is with McGee. So, you know, the plan is to find Banner and get back to the above. So that's a whole thing. But of course, you know, we gotta have some fun time conversations, right? We gotta have some character building. McGee needs to feel like she has a character arc. We need to get some more characterization on our fun time Hulk friend. Yeah. So Hulk brings back up the question that McGee had asked him during the whole Sasquatch incident, which was, you know, how do I get to be what you are? And so McGee elaborates. We live in a world of men. White, college-educated men. Men like Bruce Banner. Who just rant and scream and rage and smash things. And the world bends over backwards to understand that. To reward it. So yeah. I guess I'm asking, how do I get my piece of that pie, Hulk? How do I get to be what you are? With Hulk responding, that's good. I like that. How you talk about anger. Like it's something that needs letting out. Like it's useful. Like it can get things done. You don't lock it away.
Call it another name. Pretend it's not you. You're not ashamed of that. That I like.
So, you know, they're bonding, right? Like McG and this Hulk, they're doing their things. Hulk at one point during this conversation describes himself like a devil, almost. It's a little on the nose. And it is also telling the audience, you already know who this Hulk is. Like audience, you know who, if you've been reading Hulk, you already know who this Hulk is. Which is fair. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that later, okay? It'll come back up. But of course, since they're in hell, they're gonna encounter people, right? So, like, they encounter the dead spirit of McGee's dad. They encounter Rick Jones, good old buddy, pal Rick Jones, you know. He's Bruce Banner's best friend. He died a while back. So he's just here. They get to have a cute chat with him. But the one that, like, kind of matters the most that they meet here in the Below is one Mr. Thunderbolt Ross, who immediately gets upset seeing Hulk, transforms into Red Hulk, and they just start fighting. Because this is fucking Ross, and he does not mess around. He's just like, I'm gonna murder you. Fuck it. Like, I don't care if we're both in hell. I'm winning this. I don't care that I'm dead. I'm gonna kill you. I fucking love Ross. He's the most angry boomer, like, in Marvel Comics. He transformed himself into a Hulk just to one-up Bruce Banner. Like, I kind of love him. He is fun. But seeing Ross, and during this battle, enough emotions stir within Hulk that something happens to Hulk. He snaps and changes. Not physically, but his speech pattern changes, and how he fights is suddenly completely different. And fans will immediately recognize this as Savage Hulk. So Savage Hulk is the normal Green Hulk that most people are familiar with. He is the Hulk smash Hulk, as it were. Bad sentence structure, refers to himself in semi-third person. So this took multiple story arcs for Savage Hulk to return, which I think is fun. Because it's like you get to really get to know this current Hulk, and then here's some fan service, have a little bit of Savage Hulk. He do the thing, Hulk smash. He murders, in quotes, Ross. He was already dead, though. So you take that as you will, right? It is what it is. But one thing that I do really like about the next interaction is it's still Savage Hulk. So he does not form sentences the good, and he does not know how to express himself. So you have him just saying stuff like, Hulk hurt. All the time hurts. All the time, always. Why? Why Hulk have to hurt so much? And McG, not really knowing how to, like, interact with Savage Hulk, politely asks, can I speak with the Devil Hulk? Because I need to speak with him so that we can all get out of here. And you get this, like, kind of neat scene, and you can see it on the second page to the right here, where Hulk just says, like, okay, starts wiping away his tears, and now you're back to Devil Hulk. You see this a lot in this comic series going forward, is you will just have these hard switches between the different alters of Hulk, but the design doesn't change. So they really have to push like the expression on the character's face and the dialogue in order to tell you like who is who, since they all share a body. So it doesn't get confusing. It's done very well. But we also kind of meet the villain for this run, and that is a being simply known as the One Below All. That's a name, isn't it? And Papa Banner, I cannot remember his first name, just Bruce's dad, is serving the One Below All. He is here in hell, also kind of egging on Bruce. And it's just, it is what it is. And the One Below All wants out, right? But he's trying to find a way for him to escape. And it is what it is. Everyone's like yelling at each other. Everyone's trying to use these doors to leave the below and shit. It doesn't get confusing. It's fine. But after a whole bunch of shenanigans, Hulk gets his gamma back. So he like is now muscular again. He's not like Skeleton Boy. So his name is literally the One Below All. Yes, Cody. Yes, it is. You have to call him that every time you see him. Why, hello, the One Below All. That would get tiring very quick, wouldn't it? Anyway, that's fine. But of course, now it's time to, like, escape, right? Isn't that just Satan? No! And Satan exists in the Marvel Universe. His name's Mephisto. It's different. This is the One Below All. These are different characters. But of course, Hulk manages to reunite with Bruce. And we get, I feel bad saying this, probably my favorite 2 pages in modern comics. And definitely within, like, the Hulk series. And so Devil Hulk confronts Banner, saying, "Hey, big guy, I hear you." Oh wait, give me a minute. That's the wrong notes. This is the page I want. Whoops. Listen, Krill gave me the gamma back. I think I can close the door, bring us home. But if we're not together, we won't live through that. Good. Then let it happen. Finally, just let it happen. Bruce is being a little edgy. He wants to die, which I guess makes sense. He spent a while trying to die, and then this comic happened, right? So it is what it is. I know you locked me away years ago. I know I scare you. What I do, what I am. But before any of the others, I was there, protecting you. I'll always protect you. 'Cause I love you, you stupid kid. Somebody had to. Now come on. Come on home. I don't know. Like, that interaction sold me on this version of the Hulk. Because this is like the first version of the Hulk that is there for Bruce. He's not trying to get rid of Bruce. He's not trying to live his own life. You realize that, like, everything this Hulk was doing was for Bruce's benefit. The episodic adventures at the beginning of the comic, that was Devil Hulk pushing Banner to solve issues within towns so that Bruce could feel like a hero. So that Bruce could feel good about doing something, while also protecting him the entire time. I wouldn't say Devil Hulk is my favorite Hulk, but boy did this comic, like, shoot him up to second place. I adore Devil Hulk. Where am I? Okay. So I do want the next panel or page I'm going to show you actually comes way later in the comic, but I feel like it should be here, so that you know, kind of help you understand Devil Hulk a little bit. By the way, the reveal is that this is Devil Hulk. Devil Hulk was a Hulk introduced 20 years ago that was a personality of Banner that wants to basically burn down the world. His introduction was him saying, like, "Let me out, Bruce, and I'll hurt everyone who's ever hurt you." So naturally, Banner kept him locked up in the back of his head for years, right? But we do get a little bit of a flashback to when Devil Hulk was created, which is this scene. In which Devil Hulk says,
"Hey, big guy. I hear you, kid. I love you. I'll always be here for you. He's not your dad. Not a good dad. A dad can't hurt you and be a good dad. Just let me out, okay? Let me out and I'll kill him."
So it does help characterize, like, Devil Hulk will always stand by Banner, no matter what. And that's just kind of cute, you know? It's definitely a different dynamic, but it's one that I actually really like. Also, within Banner's mind, he, like, looks like a reptile monster. Like, when he's using Hulk's body, or the terminology, wording this is real weird. When he's in the driver's seat, as it were, he has Hulk's body. So we don't actually get to see, like, this lizard form in reality. It's just within Bruce's mind. Which is, it's like, all of them have different designs. It's weird. And then they just end up using, like, the same Hulk body. But it's whatever. It is what it is. But this closes this story arc of Hulk in Hell. And the next story arc starts with good old Betty Banner, who is woken up in the middle of the night by her phone. And when she gets on it, to her surprise, the person who's calling her is Bruce Banner, finally letting his wife know that he is alive again and wants to get back to her. Don't know why he waited this long. Oh, Banner. You're such a mess. But that's okay. By the way, in my notes that I wrote when I was, like, finding panels, I wrote as the note for this page as Banner simping. I don't know why I wrote that, but I did. So naturally he goes and meets up with Betty. You know, they're finally reunited. It's been years. They're finally going to start living together again. Maybe re-fall in love. It's gonna... it's gonna be great, right? Nothing bad will happen. It's not like she's just gonna get shot and die, like, right after they reunite, right? Right. That would be bad. That would make Banner feel really, really bad about himself. Poor guy. Can't catch a break. And neither can Betty. The amount of times Betty has died in comics is really funny. Women, am I right? So naturally Banner gets upset, you know, staring down at the dead body of his wife, and Savage Hulk immediately pops out, and because Savage likes Betty to an extent, so he's just like, I'm gonna murder you. Which makes sense, But someone stops Savage Hulk from, like, continuing on this path to murder this assassin guy, right? And that person is Leonard Samson. I don't think he's a very well-known character, so to explain, Leonard Samson is Bruce's therapist. Yes, Bruce Banner has a therapist. They have a relationship, maybe not the friendliest one. And you would never guess who's the asshole in the relationship. It's Leonard. Leonard's not a great guy. He's trying to be better though, right? He's been making strides these past couple decades to try to, like, actually be friendly to Bruce and to actually help him, unlike he was originally. But here we have, like, Leonard trying to calm down Hulk, trying to get things sorted, and during this whole process, he figures out, Oh, you do have this. I kept this panel in just because it's another, like, you get to see Savage Hulk slip back into Devil Hulk, because I really like those panels. I think they're neat. Kind of forgot that I put that there. But then we have, like, Devil Hulk trying to explain himself a little bit to Samson, you know, just to let Samson know he's not, like, the villain here. And Samson's like, oh, you're the Devil Hulk? So we finally get, like, an actual confirmation and flashback and an explanation for who Devil Hulk is for newer readers. So if anyone's reading this and they're just like, what the fuck is a Devil Hulk? Like, here's the explanation. They have a little flashback to catch up old, like, new readers. They do that on occasion in comic books. They don't like to completely leave people out, like, to dry. But of course, if you're familiar with the history of the Hulk comics, you'll also know that Betty has been gamma-powered in the past. When she first got gamma-powered, she became Harpy, so she was just this green Harpy lady. And another time, she became the Red She-Hulk. So, like, Betty's been gamma-powered before. And if gamma-powered beings can now just freely go between the world below and the world above through green doors once they die, yeah. So Betty comes back to life, now as the Red Harpy. They have combined her two gamma forms into one. And she meets up with McG, and they just kind of become friends. It's fine. It's fine. It's all good. It's all fine. So now that Leonard or Samson, should I call him Leonard or Samson? I don't want to keep calling him Leonard Samson. I'm gonna call him Samson from now on, okay? Like therapist man. So Samson and Devil Hulk are like, hey, that weird facility that captured Hulk, we should investigate that. So the two of them go off and do that, and they are immediately captured. Samson is shot, and they use these UV lights to forcibly revert Devil Hulk back into Banner so that Banner cannot defend himself. And as Banner, wounded, is trying to, like, make his way out of this facility, his demeanor just suddenly changes. And as the assassin is, like, saying, "Oh, Bruce, I'm gonna hunt you down, blah, 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 blah," Banner says, "I got news for you, big shot. I ain't Bruce Banner." And the reveal is that this is Joe, everyone's favorite version of the Hulk. Everyone loves Joe. He's the best. And for people who aren't familiar, the very next page has a recap of who Joe Fixit is, for people who don't know. So Joe Fixit is the Grey Hulk. If you've ever seen that, like, images of Hulk being gray, that's Joe. He was a version of the Hulk that, like, really, really didn't like Banner and would try to, like, force him out of his own brain, which is fun. And he also got a job as a bodyguard in Las Vegas and just kind of retired there for a few months. Joe kind of had it for a bit. Like, Joe managed to seal Banner at the back of his mind and just kind of lived his life for a bit, and he just chose to, like, live in Las Vegas. He's amazing. Love him to death. Easily my favorite version of the Hulk. It is kind of weird that in this comic, and it does become kind of like an issue for Joe in this comic, he loses his Hulk form. Like, even within the Mindscape, he is stuck in the form of Bruce Banner, and when he takes the driver's seat, he just has Bruce's body, which, like, sucks for him, because he hates Banner, and he actively loves being the Hulk. So now every time he, like, looks in the mirror, it's just Banner's face, and that just... You know, it rubs Joe the wrong way, as it were. And there are a lot of, like... what was his place on your list? Like 5? He was pretty high up. He was pretty high up. I do love Joe. He's fun. Because you do have some light theming in this comic of, like, people being uncomfortable with their bodies. You do have that with Betty later on. You have that with Joe right here. You have it with Banner, where he feels like he has lost control of his body. You had, like, Walter with the Sasquatch. And for a while, he was, like, stuck as the Sasquatch for a minute, and now he doesn't have the Sasquatch, so he was, like, identifying by his powers, and now he doesn't have it anymore, because, like, Hulk took his gamma. So, like, you have this, like, underlying current of, like, body image in this comic, which is kind of neat. It's never, like, in your face about it usually, but it comes up every now and again, and it's just kind of like a cool extra thing for storytelling in this run. But of course, Joe is able to escape from this secret base. Is called Shadow Base, by the way. So I will be referring to this facility as Shadow Base. But when Joe manages to leave, they unveil their secret weapon to try to take down the Hulk. And that is, they have the corpse of Abomination. But they mention how this body is alive, but there is no soul in it. Like, this is just a mindless monster at this point. There is no Emil Bowalski. I don't know how to pronounce that name. But Emil. Emil is like the guy who originally became the Abomination, so somehow his body jolted back to life, but no soul. So Emil is not home right now. But the next arc of the story starts with Banner waking up in the back of a taxi, wearing a pinstripe suit with, like, a casino coin in his pocket, and he's just like, how long have I been asleep? What have I been doing? What has Joe been doing with my body? And yeah, Joe and Devil have just been taking care of Bruce this whole time. They never really state how long it's been, but it's been long enough for the hotel that they're staying at, the staff knows him by name, and because Banner walks in and they immediately go, "Oh, hey, it's you," and start striking up a conversation, and Banner has to, like, pretend to be Joe to, like, keep up the facade. Like, oh no, how would Joe reply to these people? Hey! Which just makes Banner feel uncomfortable. I think that's funny. It's kind of fun. So we start getting, like, these multiple characters, because now we have, like, 4 characters inhabiting one body in this. So much so that Banner has to write down who has what body. For the audience, I presume. Or he's like, Bruce and Joe currently have Banner's body, and Savage Hulk and Devil Hulk have the Hulk body. And they do mention that Professor Hulk and Green Scar are missing. That mustache is punishment for Banner. Okay. So we find out that the mustache is something that Joe likes. Joe specifically grew out the mustache because he's like, I like this. So for clarification, when Joe is Hulk, he cannot grow facial hair. So now that he's Banner, I assume he's just like, oh, I have facial hair now. I can, like, that's kind of neat. So it just kind of is what it is. But it is kind of funny, him, like, having to, like, oh, here's the list of everyone in our brain. I will spoil this now. We do not ever get to see the Green Scar or Professor in this comic. That's sad for me, because I actually really like both those characters, and I was really hoping that, like, we would get that. And reading the current run on the Hulk, I assume we never will again. But that's a discussion for another time. That's fine. He chooses to look like that? Okay, Selkie, think about it this way, right? Joe now has Banner's body. So he gets to dress up Banner. So that when he switches back to Banner, Banner just has to deal with this. Banner now just has to, like, live with the fact that he just has this mustache, right? I like to think that that's just Joe being funny. Of course, the Abomination shows up. I've taken out the borders of these panels, so you can't really tell. This is one of those page layouts where it's meant to look like a handful of Polaroid pictures that have been scattered across a desk, which looks really cool. I probably shouldn't have edited out the paneling, like the actual, like, borders, to show that off, but it looks real good. It's anytime they want a scene to feel hectic, they use this kind of paneling. It's very good. It's very good. I quite like that a lot. Okay. So there is one weird thing, and that's they find out that somehow Rick Jones has been fused with Abomination. Actually, a lot happens in this fight, and I mean a lot. I didn't save all the panels and pages because we would be here for a while, but the Clips Notes version is that Rick is somehow merged with the Abomination. Savage Hulk is so upset that he takes over the battle. And secondly, Savage Hulk loses and gets his arms and legs melted off by the Abomination, and Mick G and Red Harpy have to show up to save the day. And how does Red Harpy save the day? She kills Savage Hulk. So, she kills Savage Hulk specifically to reset him, right? Because, of course, when he dies, they can then just reuse the green door to come back to life with a refreshed body. So then oh, sorry, that's the wrong direction. Devil Hulk comes back to, like, regens his body and finishes the fight. But we also get this cute interaction where, like, when Savage Hulk was dying, he's constantly shouting, like, oh god, I'm in pain, please help me. Like, just, like, you know, little sad Savage Hulk just like, please help me. Like, so when Devil Hulk gets back into the driver's seat, he just says like, it's okay, kid. I've got you. I've always got you. Because even Devil Hulk now is like, he cares about Savage enough to actually like, he doesn't want him to be sad either. So like, Devil is here protecting both Savage Hulk and Banner. Best dad. There was quite a bit of time where I would refer to Devil Hulk as Daddy Hulk, just because like he's trying his best to like be the father figure, trying to keep this little family together, and keep these Gamma Ultras together. Like, no, we're good. We can make it through this, guys. He's trying. I do love Devil Hulk because of that. Give me one moment. Oh, wait. What's going on? Yeah, okay. Sorry, my notes froze for a second. But at the end of this fight, they are not able to defeat the Abomination. The Abomination does escape, but they manage to separate Rick Jones from Abomination. So it's like, cool, our best, like, Banner's best friend has been rescued. Betty has come back to life. They meet back. Samson shows back up. Like, we're all good, right? Like, things are happening. It's a whole thing. Sadly, though, the commander of Shadow Base is like, enough is enough. I will take things into my own hands. And he merges himself with the Abomination so that he has control over this body. So he's going to sit there and be like, yeah, I'll beat up the Hulk, probably. Yes. At the same time, Devil Hulk has amassed all of his friends, right? We have Rick Jones is here. For some reason, Rick Jones now just has, like, gamma powers, unlike how he used to have. He can now float around and shoot gamma beams. I was a little sad when I saw that, because Rick actually has his own Hulk form, which is like a blue reptile armadillo-ass looking motherfucker. Very Abomination adjacent, which he called himself A-Bomb. I thought this would have been like a... I didn't keep the panel, but when Rick Jones shows up in the Below, he actually like tries to transform into A-Bomb and like ends up in like a half A-Bomb state, so that's like a cute thing for fans. But I was kind of hoping that would mean we would get A-Bomb back when Rick came back. That didn't happen, but that's fine. One of the main takeaways of this scene is that this scientist woman, I'm sure you've seen her in some of the panels so far, her name is McGowan? McGowan. I don't know how to pronounce this. Here, let me type it in chat, because I just don't know how I'm supposed to pronounce this shit. But it's like McGowan? McGowan. I don't know. She betrays Shadow Base and joins the team as, like, their tech member, as it were. She's really cool. I like her a lot. Gwen? How is that Gwen? What? We're calling her McGwan. Cause that's just how I've been pronouncing it for years. It's McGwan. It's McGwan. Yes. But she's really cool. I don't have much to say about her within my notes. She is one of my favorite characters in this comic. But she doesn't have a lot of, like, notable events surrounding her. she's just a really cool character and does contribute a lot, but it's mostly in like ensemble scenes. So yeah, she's cool, but there's not much to like really say aside from the elephant in the room about her. But you can find out about that if you read the comic. So because I don't want this character to be lost in that controversy. But Hulk does manage to defeat the Abomination Commander guy, so it's cool. By the way, fight scenes in this comic are really, really gruesome. Like, for a comic book aimed towards, like, 13-year-olds, it gets pretty graphic. I don't show a lot of it because I kind of want, like, if you're interested, to go read the comic yourself, and thus you can, like, actually see the events unfold in a more natural way, other than me just summarizing. And because, like, the paneling is really good, and the fight scenes are kinetic in a way, and kind of horrifying. Like, the fights are very gruesome, and that's a fun thing in this comic. But yeah, the one thing that, like, this does signify is this is kind of the end of the ongoing story arc so far, right? Yeah, right, Michael? Like, when you look at, like, it says it's for teens, so, like, this kind of closes the story arc of the Shadow Base, like, as an antagonist, but they've kind of been the ones sending out people, and they've been responsible for a lot of the events throughout the comics so far. So this kind of, like, posits a question of, if we've now taken out the people who have been, like, minus, like, the one below all, right? If we're, like, ignoring that, like, what do we do now? And Ewing comes up with a very ambitious idea. I don't want to say the word interesting. I really don't. I'm gonna say the word ambitious, because it completely changes the tone of the comic. And that is, Bruce Banner and Devil Hulk decide, we're taking over Shadow Base. This is ours now. This is our base of operation. We're going to get back at the world. And shit gets political. For a while. Like, it's weird. Like, the next arc starts off with Bruce giving, like, an address on, like, what he's doing and everything. Like, here, I'll read this for you. I am broadcasting from a secret underground location under the aegis of Shadow Base, an organization that was, until recently, tasked to vivisect me and create weapons from my body. For this purpose, they were allocated a black budget, a covert, deniable revenue stream funneled from our nation's military of $1.2 billion. That money could have been spent on education or medicine, or help build the renewable energy infrastructure we'll need to survive the coming century. More likely, it would have been spent on more guns, or more bombs, or more camps. Well, that's the world we live in, isn't it? The human world. And so Bruce decides that he's just going to take down companies that, like, help perpetuate, like, these awful ideals that he's against. And yeah, it gets weirdly political. I know I've said that already, but, like, it kind of, when I was reading this at the time, I was kind of baffled at the direction this went. I liked it, and it was really cool, but I'm like, this was a horror comic, and now it's a political drama. It just, like, makes that weird heel turn. It's weird. Also, one of the main villains in this arc is a military CEO, Minotaur CEO. Don't worry about it. Don't ask about it. It's comic books. It's fine. It's not weird. So like, yeah, most of this story arc is like Banner going around destroying like military facilities and taking down monsters and things that are connected to these like shady military organizations and like companies that are facilitating this. And it's weird, and it's such an odd story arc. Like, it's really hard for me to like really it's weird. Well, they don't want you to be attracted to this Minotaur. You want to see this Minotaur get taken down. He's like an awful businessman that's like ruining the lives of everyone and perpetuating like the making of military weapons for his own selfish like personal gain and like all these other things. Also, for some reason, the Hulk, not for some reason, Hulk becomes like an anti-government symbol in the comics. Like, people start wearing like Hulk masks and going to like oh, what is the wording? Oh god. To petition? Nope, not petition. To what's the thing where like people rally together and like, protest? Like, you have people protesting against like different government bodies and military organizations, and they're all wearing Hulk masks. And you know, he becomes like this big symbol, and they even have a slogan of like "Believe in Banner." It's weird. It's like really weird. And like the storytelling becomes like off in a good way. Like, there's an entire issue that drops the perspective of like the Minotaur guy and Banner and like the other members of the new Shadow Base, and instead you have this arc from like this whole issue is from the perspective of this. Also, has a different art style for this issue to help like push like the different perspective, but it's from this police officer's perspective about how like he oh, whoops, I did not layer that correctly. Oh well. But about how like he really wants like the world to stay simple and stay the same, and how he's like, oh, but like it was so much simpler, like going to church, go to work, blah blah blah. And he like doesn't understand like the new generations. He's completely lost touch with his daughter. Like, she has piercings, dyed her hair, like she's against the man, you know, and like he's the man. So he's like, what happened? I don't know. Like, life was so much simpler before. Like, he specifically in his head uses phrasings like, the devil is in her, I can't understand her anymore. And like during like a protest that's like starting to get violent, he looks into the crowd and notices his own daughter like in the crowd protesting against like his workplace, and you kind of see him snap and pull up his gun, and that issue has like a surprising ending. So like, if you're interested, read the comic. But it gets weirdly topical is what I'm saying. Like, it's weird. It's very political. It goes places. But other than that, Mr. Minotaur Man decides like he needs something to help fight against the Hulk. Right? He can't just like beat the Hulk through sheer power. So he recruits somebody named Zemnu? I don't know how this is pronounced either. Here, I'll also put this in chat. I don't know how to pronounce this. Like, I don't know. But that creature is this guy. This weird cyborg Yeti thing. I don't know. Apparently he's from like an older comic that I haven't read. I'm unfamiliar with this character. He's weird. He's really weird. And he just shows up and is like, yeah, that's how I would, yeah, Zemnu. But he just shows up and is like, yeah, I'm the Hulk. Didn't you know that? And of course, Savage Hulk, because Devil Hulk is letting Savage Hulk doing a lot of these, like, raids and stuff to make it so that, you know, Savage Hulk feels like he's participating. It's kind of cute. But yeah, you just have Zemnu show up and just like, yeah, you're not the Hulk, I'm the Hulk. And so Savage Hulk is like, no, I'm the Hulk. Right? And the arc kinda gets really weird. 'Cause you start having things like, I don't know, it feels like the world within the comic starts to break down because of Zemnu. It's odd. I don't really have any, like, panels to use as, like, reference to this, because I would need, like, 80. So instead I'll use, like... Oh no, it happens a little bit later. I have that later in the slides. But yeah, things just start to get really weird. And the only one that's, like, commenting on it is Savage Hulk. Like, Savage Hulk will comment, hey, this feels wrong. And everyone just kind of goes, it's fine. Including Devil Hulk. And, like, yeah, I get it, because Savage Hulk is like, oh, Hulk smash. Stop. Like, the smash thing, right? So everyone just kind of, like, rushes off Savage Hulk's opinion, because, you know, he's kind of a literal child. So, like, you have this whole scene where he's just like, Hulk is... Hulk? Well, Hulk will go. And, like, even, like, Devil, like, comments, like, oh, it's weird. Like, this whole thing, like, I don't know what's up with Savage. And it's just, it gets weird. Like, you have these 3 pages that are in separate issues that are the, they're kind of meant to show the corruption of the world because of Zemnu. And what he's doing is, like, I can't phrase it any other way besides he is taking over the world through memes. And I know that, like, that sounds weird, but he's, like, his superpower is, like, hypnosis. So he uses, like, he's using television to alter how people remember history. Like, he's gotten it to where he's like, I formed the Avengers. I'm the one who who defeated Galactus. I was the original Hulk. I was president at one point. Like, and everyone in the street is just like, oh yeah, I love Zemnu. He was also a star in that television show, The Magic Planet. And, like, you'll have people, like, chanting the opening theme to this television show that doesn't exist. 'Cause it's just Zemnu, like, editing culture. And it gets real fucked. Because he's not physically changing the world. He's changing how people remember history. So that he can take over and replace, like, the world's heroes. He straight up murders the Minotaur guy who was... who hired him. Because he's just like, I don't need you. So I do like how you have these, like... where they use this panel, this page layout, multiple times throughout different issues, like, showing the corruption of the world and, like, how he's, like, taking over things. Yeah, Dragos, like, I'm saying meme, like, as in the definition of the word, like, taking over the, like, culturally. It's kind of wild. But it's neat. But of course, like, you do have Savage Hulk, like, everyone kind of, it's actually, what's her name? McGowan, who kind of figures out, wait, Savage is right, something is wrong, and, like, has to try and convince other people about the editing of the world through by how we remember it. Because of these, like, the television show that doesn't exist and such. And her explanation, how she finds out, is really neat, and it says a lot about her as a character and her own fears and how she sees herself. And that's how she's able to figure out what memories are real and what memories aren't, because of how, like, solidified her viewpoint of herself is. And it's really cool. Again, a lot gets caught up with her in terms of, like, perception of the character due to that, but hey, I think she's really cool, and I did really love that reveal. But it is what it is. Read the comic. Can you elaborate? I put that panel in and out of this presentation for days. I just did not know if I wanted to mention it, because I feel like it does muddle the perception of the character, because you will either love Mick because of this, or hate her. Most people will love her because of this, but I also feel like that causes people to not actually talk about her as a character, but because of what she is, and that's because she's trans. Like, that's how she's able to, like, figure out, like, Zenmu's plot, is because of that. She's like, no, I know myself so well, I can see that my memories are being tampered with, that my perception of the world is being tampered with. And she's a really cool character because of that. But most of the time, people will either shit on the character because some people feel like that's a lazy inclusion, and then you'll have people that are like, no, she's an amazing character just because of she's trans, and then not actually, like, talk about her as a character, which I also find really insulting. Like, if people just boil her down to the fact that she's trans, and I kind of think that's insulting to the character, like, which is why I didn't know whether or not to mention or not. Because I still wanted, like, people watching this to be able to view her as, like, a character, rather than what she is. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's an issue with characters like this. That's also, like, it helps with the whole, like, body theming that this comic has, like, having a trans character. So I like that that is there. But yeah, it's just, there's a lot of, like, arguing that goes on because of her. Like, whether or not it's forced representation or not, whether or not it feels natural, it's just, it's a lot of red tape that I don't typically like dealing with. Because the character just feels lost in that argument. But of course, they're able to save the day, you know, they defeat Zemnu. It's neat. The day is saved. And then, during, like, the end of that, oh, wait, what am... Oh, I mislabeled these, whoops. At the end of this story arc, Rick kind of turns to the camera and says, like, something really menacing. And we get this bonkers reveal that Rick Jones is actually possessed by the Hulk villain known as the Leader. So the Leader is currently within the Below. So instead of going through doors in order to revive himself, he instead steals doors so that he can puppet that person, because a door is connected to somebody. So he stole Rick Jones's door and is puppeting him. And just nobody else knows. So this calls into question the entire cast. Because so many characters have died over the course of this comic and brought back that it's suddenly like, is Samson Samson, or is this the leader? Is Betty Betty, or is it the leader? Because if he's just in the below and can puppet people without anyone knowing, that it does just turn the entire cast into who is themselves and who is the leader, who is being body snatched, essentially. And that leads to like a new form of horror in the comic that I didn't think would show up, but is really cool. I do like that. So, I felt like I needed to mention like this panel specifically during the epilogue of this storyline, in which Betty decides she is going to leave Shadow Base because reasons. And I found this page really funny with the history of the Hulk comic, in which Bruce, so if you did, I haven't really illustrated it before, but once Betty became the Red Harpy, she refuses to interact with Bruce as Betty. She only talks to him as the Red Harpy. And so you have this scene in which Banner finally breaks and is like, I would like nothing more than to talk to Betty, Leonard. I've been trying to talk to her for weeks now. But I want to talk to Betty. Can't you understand that? I don't want to talk to this creature. Because of course this is how Betty chooses to identify with herself now. And this page is really funny in hindsight, considering Betty said this about Banner at one point during the 90s. And I just thought that was funny, and I wanted to mention that. A kind of role reversal, if you will. I don't know if the writer thought anyone would get that. Probably, but like, who knows? There are some deep cuts in this comic. So as like, Savage Hulk is preparing, like he's helping rebuild the city, you know, he's trying to like, you know, Banner and Hulk are now a symbol of like anti-government and shit, so like they're doing like public displays of work in order to like get higher approval ratings, you know, fight the man, blah 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 blah. And Rick Jones during this process just kind of walks up to Hulk and pats him on the shoulder like, you're doing great work, buddy. You're doing great. And Hulk goes nuclear and blows up the city. Killing the majority of this town's inhabitants and residents. It is not a good look, shall we say? It is what it is. It's kind of neat. We also learn that the leader, while in the below, can use multiple doors at the same time. So he can actually puppet several people all at once. So he's like attacking people at different locations, making it harder to figure out like what the leader is doing, what he's plotting. Also, no one knows that the leader is puppeting people yet. That hasn't been revealed to the cast yet. So it's just like, what's happening? Like, things are going awful all at once. Like, so after the explosion in that Hulk just did, Alpha Flight shows up, now renamed Gamma Flight, to try to defeat Hulk, and they just straight murk him. Like, they just shoot him in the head, he's dead, and the leader possesses another person to just kill Samson. So now, like, Samson and, like, Hulk are deadu. Like, they're just dead. Is what it is. This is, of course, like, a plot to, like, try to get a hold of their doors, right? Because we kind of figure out the leader is trying to body snatch Hulk himself. But we also find out the leader has actually found a back door into Bruce's mind. He can't take over the body because of the other alters within the mind, but he has just been in Bruce's mind, and it's been implied for a while. The leader can shapeshift to different forms within the mind. Like, he's currently using the body of, like, Green Scar, which was a fun fake out. Like, there's an issue where, like, Green Scar shows up inside of the Mind Palace, and then it's like, nope, it's the leader, which was sad for me, because I was really excited that the Green Scar came back, and no, well. But because of that, they also reveal that, if you remember way back at the beginning of the comic, when when Hulk absorbs the gamma from the Sasquatch, and suddenly his reflection for a bit became, Banner's father, that is because that was not Banner's father, that was the leader taking on the appearance of Banner's father. He used the green door, he used Walter's green door to become the Sasquatch, so that Hulk would absorb that gamma, so that he could be inside of Bruce's mind. It's a lot of, like, weird jumping around. I don't know if that's, like, hard to keep up with, but I thought that was fun. It is kind of hard to keep track of who is who, and, like, who is who when, and not. But that's kind of the fun, right? You never know who is who anymore. Also, like, the leader has been slowly putting the different personalities within Bruce dormant. Like, he's now chained up Bruce, Joe, Savage, and hysterically had to, like, put Devil into an iron cage just to try to keep him out of the way, right? Because Devil's the most dangerous of the personalities. He's too strong. So he has to, like, lock him up like this, which is just a really funny visual. Of course, as soon as the leader starts to chain up Bruce within the mind, it finally makes Devil snap. He's like, don't you dare touch Banner. And he's able to break free from his prison and just go off on the leader. Which is real cool, you know? It's cool seeing Devil Hulk be cool. Maybe that's just me, but it's just really neat to have, like, a personality that's, like, so... I'm here for all these people. It's kind of just nice. Fortunately, we do get the actual confirmation in order to try to, like, confuse Devil Hulk. The leader shifts into Bruce's dad to try to, like, you know, get things, try to, like, distract things, and it works, but not on Devil Hulk, because Devil Hulk is like, fuck it, I'll just kill you in that form, who cares? But it does hurt Savage Hulk. Like, Savage Hulk cannot deal with, like, Devil Hulk murdering the image of his biological father. So you have just, like, Savage Hulk going like, please no, like, don't do this. And I don't know, that's kind of sad. And what's sadder is that the leader takes this opportunity and just murders Devil Hulk. He just does that. He turns into an eldritch creature and just murders Devil Hulk. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Devil Hulk does not come back from this. He just stays dead. I have issues with that. I really do. Like, sure, would have been weird for him to come back? Yes. But the sequence just happens so fast. And he just doesn't come back from this. The entire rest of the comic, Devil Hulk does not come back. It's sad. To me. I grew to like this character. So it kind of makes, like, Savage Hulk a little responsible. Leaders, like, now has all the power, because it's like, well, the only Hulk personality that was, like, really in my way was Devil Hulk, so... We're winning, baby. And as an extra flex, like, the leader kind of has to retreat for reasons. I don't even remember the real reason why. But he kind of just goes, hey, I'm just gonna take Banner and leave. So, like, Banner's mind gets pulled into the green door, back into the below. So now you just have Joe and Savage sitting here like, what? Who? What just happened? Like, it all happens very fast. It's like just a few pages that all of this happens. It's things. Also, Joe and Savage don't have, like, the best relationship. So the fact that those two are now the only ones left in Bruce's body, like, poses an issue going forward. They have been getting better. They're making strides to, like, having a better relationship with one another. But, you know, it's not perfect, right? Like, you have this interaction in which, like, they're trying to sort out what's happening, and Savage, like, Joe can't figure out, like, piece together what's happened in the story because he's not a genius. And you just have Savage Hulk going like, puny Banner would know. With Joe, like, responding with, well, puny Banner ain't here, is he? Puny Banner got yanked out of our head and dragged down to hell. And you just suddenly have, like, Savage Hulk crying, saying, like, please stop yelling at me. Like, just crying off to the side. It's kind of fun. These two do not, you know, they don't communicate well, right? They're trying, though. So because of all of the green door shenanigans, right? And like I said earlier, Samson got shot and dead. So Samson was chatting it up with the leader in the below and just turned around and started running away because he's like, no, I gotta get out of here. Like, I can't deal with the leader. I have to escape the below. I gotta do things. He does not know where his door is because he's never, like, usually when people go to the below, they instinctually just happen upon their door. But in this case, because of everything that's happening, he loses track of where his door is and just kind of has to use the first one he sees. Which, so Samson, the door he finds is Walter's. So he now just is the Sasquatch, which is funny for a lot of reasons. Also, side note, that pube game is strong. But back on track, it is a kind of, it's a cool bit of writing for Samson's characterization, where if you didn't know, Samson became Banner's therapist in order to siphon his gamma. Like, Samson wanted gamma powers to be a hero. And he kind of, like, flexed on Banner when he got the gamma powers. Like, I got to keep my human form. Like, he just looks like he just has green hair in his buff now, right? So he kind of, like, always held that over Banner's head of, like, I'm basically just a more marketable Hulk. Like, within the universe. And kind of, like, flex that he could be a better hero than Banner could. So suddenly you have this whole series, and now Samson is as monstrous on the outside as he kind of is on the inside, and he does realize this and doesn't complain. He's kind of just like, oh, I guess this is what I kind of deserve. I kind of hate this. Like, he really dislikes being the Sasquatch. Also, he calls himself Doc Sasquatch. I think that's funny. But yeah, so this is just the thing now. Samson's just now the Sasquatch. But this does, Oh, do I have the right thing? Oh god, did I forget to put it in? Oh, fucku. Did I not? Oh, shit. I lost it. Oh well. There's a page in which, like, they reveal that Walter is now in Samson's body, because the only door he could find was Samson's, and he's like, cool, I'm buff now. That's lit, and I don't have to turn into a furry to be buff. Shit's lit. So now, yeah, you, like, those two are just, like, have each other's bodies. Like, yeah, it adds to the who is who situation. But it's kind of fun. You also have this amazing panel. Okay, so, like, when Hulk died, Gamma Flight took the body into custody. So that's, like, they were just on a space station this whole time. Like, during that whole Mindscape scenario. And, you know, Joe has to escape. He can't trust Savage Hulk to escape on his own. So he does the lit thing and just blows a hole open in the space station and jumps out, because who fucking cares? If he dies, he'll just be revived. He knows what he's doing. So he just crashes down on Earth, right? Just crashes down, it's fine. But when he gets back up, like, he gets up on this pier, he hears a voice saying, well, ain't this a rotten development? And, you know, a certain friend meets Hulk here, you know? A good friend, a good rival, as it were. And that's Ben Grimm! It's like this comic was made for me. I was so hyped when this issue came out. Because this is where this issue ends. This is like the stinger image, where Ben just shows up and says, I think you know what time it is. Like... Oh, every issue ends with a, like, quote thing. I usually crop it out because it doesn't matter, but I had to keep the here's the thing because that's funny. I laughed really hard. So, like, of course this just leads to an all-out fight, right? Because from Ben's perspective, Hulk recently blew up a city, killing hundreds of people, and has escaped custody. So, like, yeah, I get it. So Ben is like, I'm gonna beat you up and turn you back in, right? Like, you are a criminal. And that's fair. From the information that Ben knows, right? But of course, Joe, kind of growing a heart, can't stand the sight of Ben just beating up Savage Hulk, so he gets back into the driver's seat and is like, what the fuck are you doing, Ben? You're literally just beating up on a defenseless child. So, of course, Ben, being a very respectable individual, goes, oh, is that what's happening? Okay, and they sit down and eat hot dogs together. Like, they go to, like, a little hot dogs, like, place, and they sit, they chill, they hang out, he buys them food. It is what it is. Also, it's worth noting that in this conversation, Ben only refers to Joe as Hulk, because right away he knows that this is not Banner. Excuse me. So he just says Hulk. But during this conversation, Ben also offers, hey, like, the Four and I can, like, help you, you know, we can defeat the leader. Like, do you really think Stearns, or, yeah, by the way, The leader's name is Stearns. I forgot to mention that. I'm sorry. Like, Reed can defeat the leader pretty easy. Like, he's smarter. He can do the thing. And Joe just says, I heard you died once. You go upstairs or downstairs? And Ben replies with, upstairs. Like I said, this ain't something you can help with. And it's, you know, it's like, okay, like, Ben respects that, and he helps Joe on his feet and gets him to leave, and you have this cute little exchange where Joe was like, you keep calling me Hulk, what's up with that? And Ben just saying, so, that's who you are, ain't it? Because he's a respectable person. Ben's respectable enough to refer to people with how they identify. That's for sure. He's a cool guy. I also see what Marvel did in this scene. They can't hide it from me. They can't. So on the window in the back, I don't have the panel that shows more of it, I'm sorry, but the hot dog stand is called 2-in-1. I see what you did there, Marvel. So for reference, Marvel had a comic book called Marvel 2-in-1, in which two Marvel heroes would team up as just a one-off issue kind of a thing. But it wasn't like two random heroes. It would be the hero that's the star of the book currently, and then a guest star. And the hero that helmed the 2-in-1 comic for like 8 years was Ben Grimm. So this is just a cute reference to be like, hey, this is an issue with Ben in it, so let's have like a 2-in-1 like joke in here, especially since like Ben is guest starring in Hulk, so it's kind of like two heroes in one comic. It's cute. It's a fun little nod, Easter egg, if you will. I am a fan of this. So back on the space station, Samson is still very emo about being a furry, and I don't know why he would be. Like, bruh. Like, Samson, we gotta talk. Like, you're a lot hotter right now than you were previously, so like, I don't see the problem. But okay, you do you. The main takeaway from this scene is that Samson quits like the government position, and like the rest of the Gamma Flight go with him. I think he's upset he's not furry enough. Oh, maybe, that's for sure. But yeah, so Gamma Flight has quit the this whole like the government was trying to like hire heroes to kill the Hulk, so they hired Gamma Flight. It's a whole thing. So like they've quit. That's cool. Well, now they don't have a team to hunt down Hulk. So this guy phones up an old team of villains. And that group is the... Oh, God. Oh, fuck. Did I misorder this? Faku. Is the UFOs. So the UFOs have finally been reintroduced. They're old Hulk villains, so it's a bit of fan service. These were 4 individuals who, similarly to the Fantastic Four, got hit with a bunch of cosmic radiation and got superpowers. It's a whole thing. Also, back with McG and McGwan. Because they're still characters, they matter. McG finds out that she is developing gamma powers. By being like part of this team and by interacting with these people in all these events, she has like been exposed to gamma too much. But her gamma only exists in her eyes. Somehow not the rest of her body, in her eyes. So what does that mean? She can see gamma things. She can see the gamma in the world. What a lame power. It's fine though. It's fine. Yeah, it's Luke's mana vision, but with Gamma. Oh, right. So the UFOs show up and fucking just start wailing on Savage Hulk. Also, I love the way that, like, he's illustrated in the top left corner, where, like, his flesh is just melting. He's not doing okay. Hulk is in pain right now. Savage not doing good. And they just murder him. Like, he's just a skeleton by the end. Like, they pump him with so much cosmic radiation, he's just a skeleton. Shit's wild. And the takeaway from this is that, hey, Joe and Savage are now dead and they're both back in the below. That's reasonable. McG and everyone are also trying to, like, figure out where Hulk is, how they can help. McG is trying to figure out her powers. She can also just see ghosts now. I guess ghosts give off gamma radiation. Marvel Universe, it does what it wants. But that's fun, right? Maybe. It's for someone. What's your 13-year-old content? Facts. Oh, right, you also... Oh, wait, it was way over here. Whoops, I'm sorry. So Samson still upset about being a furry, right? It's like, hey. So him and McGuan go out and try to, like, find his body. They're like, hey, maybe if we find my body, we can, like, move my mind back into my body. That's cool, right? And when they go to the place where he died, it's just gone. And yeah, then they reveal that Walter has his body. I love how, to make sure you know that it's Walter, they put these massive sideburns on him. It's like, I can't... That's Walter's most defining characteristic. His fucking sideburns, right? So it would be possible to... Yeah, I guess Dragos. It's still just kind of funny that it's just like, I can see ghosts because they give off gamma radiation. To some extent. I don't know, did Walter make it out better than Samson in this scenario? Because now Walter can't become a furry, but, like, he's buff. Like, as human. And, like, Samson's now a furry. Yeah, there's no downsides to that. Samson made it out better, I think. It's a whole thing. So a big thing that happens right after this is that while in the below, Joe, mad enough and fueled with cosmic power because of the UFOs, is finally able to Hulk out and save Savage. And having become the Hulk again, he just takes Savage and uses their door and leaves. So it's like, yeah, we're out of here. That's fine. We'll come back for Bruce later once we've, like, recollected ourselves. So what this does is it turns Joe into the Cosmic Hulk. Because he is no longer, like, his Hulk form is no longer fueled by gamma. It's fueled by cosmic radiation. And using this form, he is able to defeat the UFOs. And he's like, lit, I'm the Hulk again. I have my body back. I defeated some villains. He's gonna celebrate. So he goes to the nearest bar and starts drinking. He just walks into the bar as the Hulk and is like, yo, give me some beer. I can pay for it too. I got money on me. Like, Bartender's like, yo, fuck. Are you gonna rob me? And he's like, no, I want alcohol. I want to get drunk. I want to celebrate. Like, like Joe gets to be Joe again. Shit's fun. The Avengers are not impressed. So the Avengers are still trying to track down Hulk because, you know, to the rest of the world, he's still responsible for blowing up that city, even though that was the leader setting off Gamma within the Hulk. And, you know, no one knows that was actually the leader's involvement. So everyone's just blaming Hulk for everything. And so the Avengers show back up and they're like, we're gonna murder you this time, right? So usually I don't show much of the battles, but I just really wanted to show off this panel in which, like, Thor had blown up Hulk's arm, and so Hulk punches and reforms his arm around Thor's head to try to suffocate him to death. Shit's weird. It's very comic book. I kind of like it. Now, also in this fight, McG shows back up along with McGuan, and She-Hulk of the Avengers now defects from the Avengers to rescue Hulk. Like, they band together and they're like, hey, let's just get out of here. They teleport out. So Hulk just gets teleported away from the Avengers. He no longer has to participate in this fight. But this means that Joe has to confront Betty, or Red Harpy, however she so identifies at the moment. And she's upset with Joe for obvious reasons, because she finds out that Joe was in the Below and didn't rescue Banner. So she's a little upset that she's just like, you abandoned my husband? Joe, you got your Hulk powers and ran? You didn't stay and get back Banner? And you know what? That's fair. That's fair, right? But within that whole conversation, you have Joe reminiscing about, like, his time with Betty over the years of the comics. And as a big fan of Joe Fixit, I recognized one of those panels. Oh, yes, I did. Because you have a panel that's specifically a flashback to issue, like, 300-something, in which, like, Betty confronts Joe and they finally have, like, a little heart-to-heart. And, like, so they have the panel is in reference to the cover of that issue, but they keep the dialogue from that issue. And I just recognized it, and I wanted to point that out because, you know, I'm a nerd. It's cute, though. It's cute. Also, that was one of my favorite issues in that run of Peter David's. So, yeah. But, sadly, the comic book is ending soon. Like, the comic only has, like, a few issues left of its story, of Ewing's run of Immortal Hulk. Or just Immortal Hulk in general, because they changed names after this run. So it's time to wrap up some characterization, right? Sadly. And we get this really cute scene with Joe, where Joe kind of has to, like, he opens his heart up, he talks about himself. Yes, this is more Ewing's interpretation of Joe. I still think it fits. It's different from prior interpretations of, like, his origin and where he comes from, but it, like, still gets to the heart of, like, what Joe means to Banner. So Joe says this. A kid got beaten half to death by his father. He watched a black and white movie through his blackened eyes. And somewhere in there was an idea of what a grown-up is. Somebody who can take the pain. That's what I started as. A kid's idea of a man. I talk tough, I crack wise, and if you piss me off, maybe I'll beat you half to death.
Maybe I'll hurt you so bad you never recover. Maybe I'll enjoy it. 'Cause that's what a grown-up is.
And Joe, like, further talks about how he, like, does not want to be that kind of person anymore. He actually wants to, like, better himself, be someone that he can, like, look in the mirror and, like, be proud of, which is something he's never been able to do. But as his time as Banner, he's been able to, like, see the world slightly differently. He can't interact with the world the same way. So now back as the Hulk, he feels like he has to, like, better himself to better the people around him. Like, Joe, he's finally getting there. It feels like an actual continuation of, like, his character arc that got dropped from 20 years ago. So I'm glad that this comic exists because of that. Sadly, post-Immortal Hulk has not shown back up, so we don't get to see the fruits of that labor. Because the current run drops the other alters, and I'm fine. I'm not upset about that. I'm not still just salty every month when I read a new issue of the Hulk. Excuse me. But in the penultimate issue of Immortal Hulk, Ewing decided to go full pretentious, which I'm here for. I am here for this. And that is the entire second to final issue is nothing but splash pages. There's not even dialogue bubbles. It's one splash page and then a column off to the side with physical descriptions of what is happening in the scene and the dialogue. It's like, it makes a statement, that's for sure. Like, it really does make a statement. Mirrors are technically green. Oh, that's probably what did it. I assume, like, Ewing is, like, cultured enough to, like, have came up with that. But of course, for Hulk to get back to the below, like, actually get back to the below, he needs help. And he ends up going to Avengers Mansion. No, he does not go to Avengers Mansion, sorry. He ends up going to the Baxter Building. For reasons. But the Avengers are waiting for him, and they're just going to murder Hulk on the spot, because the Avengers are some of the most morally bankrupt individuals in the Marvel Universe, disregarding the X-Men. So they're just gonna beat up this actually innocent man for, you know, because it makes them feel good. But who's going to save Hulk? Because, like, Joe, Jen, and, Jen is She-Hulk, by the way, and McGee they can't just take on the Avengers, right? Not really. Not by themselves. So someone has to save Hulk in this scenario. And those people end up being the Fantastic Four. The best individuals in the Marvel Universe. The most kind-hearted, supporting group of people. They are here for their friend. Legitimately. They're just like, what the fuck? Like the narration says, it was Ben Grimm, the Thing, who looked the most human. With Ben saying, "What's the matter with all of you?" And offering Hulk a hand, he says, "Did they hurt you, pal?" Joe's narration then further describes, the Hulk looked almost sad when Ben said that, but he didn't take Ben's hand. He never said a word as we left the world of the superheroes behind us. He hadn't beaten it in the end, but he didn't beat it. It didn't beat him either. Ben's voice seemed to come from far away. "You're okay, pal. You're okay." So what are the Fantastic Four going to do to help Hulk? Right? Well, this comic book was coming out at the same time as Dan Slott's run on the Fantastic Four. So if you remember from from the stream I did with that, the Fantastic Four just happen to have something that can help the Hulk in this scenario. The Forever Gate. Hulk will now use, Reed just lets Hulk have access to the Forever Gate in order to teleport himself and McG into the Below, in order to finally rescue Banner, to defeat the leader, to overcome the One Below All. It's all coming together. Look, the Marvel Universe, it's all shared, right? So things from one comic affect things in another, and it's really fun. Like, when you're actually, reading, the comics, side by side, you're like, oh, it's, all happening concurrently, it's fun. But of course, those three, Hulk and McG enter the Forever Gate. But in the Below, because of how the alter situation works, it does separate Savage Hulk and Joe into their own bodies. Also, do you see it? Do you see this trio? Do you see how they're colored? RGB, baby! Oh, they look so good next to each other, right? It's so good! Color design at its peak. I also want to mention that Devil Hulk gets brought up here, and you just have Savage Hulk very quietly mentioning Hulk misses him. I don't know, I just thought that was cute, that, Savage Hulk actually, grew very fond of Devil over their time together. Is that why they made Joe red instead of gray? It's a lot of different things. At the time, Ross was dead. Deader than dead. So there was no Red Hulk in that time. And it really is just for the Mindscape kind of thing, because, with Joe as the Cosmic Hulk, he kind of still had a gray tint to him. So it kind of still works, you know? But I'm sure for this case, it's just so that when they're in the Below and within the mind, it helps differentiate Savage from Joe. But that's fine, right? So of course, we get the final confrontation with the One Below All. It is revealed that the One Below All was actually responsible for bringing the leader back, and was basically puppeting the leader. Somewhat. The leader wanting to body snatch Hulk and stuff, that was still the leader. But the leader was still somewhat subservient to the One Below All. So they're able to defeat, they're able to sever the connection between the One Below All and the leader. And they confront the One Below All, and you finally learn the truth behind the One Below All, and I feel like your mileage will vary. Legitimately. I've seen people say the reveal for what is the One Below All is more pretentious than it needs to be, or it was too predictable, to fuck you, to this is one of the greatest ideas, it works so well thematically. Your mileage will vary. And if you want to know, remind me when I finish, so that for people who want to read the comic and not be spoiled, you give that to them, right? But after everything with the One Below All, and it's time to leave, there is a depowered leader laying on the ground. He is human again, he's not gamma irradiated, and he's just groveling and crying because it's the whole thing. And so you have Savage Hulk bend down in front of the leader, or Stearns, and says, "You hurt Hulk. Hurt Hulk lots. But if Hulk left you here, left anyone here, it would hurt Hulk worse. Hulk hurt inside. Hurt who Hulk is.
Hulk forgive you? You are Hulk too. Same as Hulk. Hulk should forgive Hulk. Someone has to.
So I remember, I was absolutely jaw to the ground when I saw this page originally. When this issue finally came out, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Like, this page. And the reason for that is, I don't know if it's easy to tell, because I've had to edit the panels around to fit better on the screen, but it is to show the emotional growth of Savage Hulk, where he is now as mature of an individual as Devil Hulk was when Devil Hulk saved Banner from hell. And it's the same page layout. And for I know that some people could probably argue that it's really cheating because you're just using the same page layout. There's 3 years in between these chapters. Like, these issues, these are 3 years apart. So, the satisfaction of getting to this final issue and seeing, it come full circle with this panel. They knew it was the best page earlier. They knew it. It's beautiful. I absolutely adore it. So this capstones Savage's character arc, but of course there's another Hulk, right? You have Joe still, and we need to end Joe's character arc. So Joe is the one who finally really heart to heart with McG, and says, I don't want you to forgive me. Right? He says specifically
this ain't me wanting forgiveness. This ain't what I want. This isn't about what I want, but whatever you want or need from me. Anytime, any place, any favor, forever. Find Banner. Say the word. I'll come running.
It ends Joe's arc in such a perfect place where he's finally going to put other people before himself, which is something that he never did for decades of the comic. Oh, you've posted this page multiple times. I have. I'm sorry, Ian. I love it too much. I love that page. It's too good. And I'm definitely not salty that Joe isn't in the new run of Hulk. I'm not salty that I don't get to see Joe being the best person he can possibly be. Nope, not at all. No. Nope. Okay, so we do have a little epilogue, right? Because now that they've rescued Banner and that everyone's back in place, they even get Samson and Walter back in their correct bodies. The Fantastic Four hooked them up. We get a final little epilogue from Banner, right? In which he says, all the people who live in my mirror, both the ones I can see and the one I don't always want to. As a way of just coming full circle, he's accepted his reflections in the mirror, which are now Joe and Savage. It's really cute. But then you have a callback to the very first issue, right? In which Banner asks you, the audience, are we good people? Well, what do you think? And that's just how the Immortal Hulk ends. One in which your morality is not a cut in stone thing of whether or not you're a good or bad person. It's all about people figuring themselves out. It's all about viewing yourself how you want to better yourself. Like, I absolutely adored this comic. This was years, like I spent like a few years reading this, and I loved reading it month to month, seeing what was going to happen next. I know that even though a lot of this is summarization, if you're interested, legitimately go read Immortal Hulk. Like, it is 50 issues total. I think it clocks in at 10 volumes if you buy the volumes. I left out a lot because it's a lot of, like, cool lore stuff. This was just, like, quick little overview for me to gush about, like, little things that I liked in the comic. And I really dug everything about this story. Because for, it had been more than 10 years since the Alters came back. Like, there was a 10-year period in Hulk comics in which you didn't see Joe, you didn't see Professor Hulk, you didn't see Devil Hulk anymore. Like, Devil Hulk appeared in, like, one storyline and then, like, was never brought up again. Like, writers just stopped using the other personalities and just focused on Savage and Joe. I mean, not Savage and Joe, but Savage and Banner. And so, like, seeing, like, Ewing get into this comic and going, like, no, we're using everyone. Well, in quotes, everyone. What's it called? Green Scar and the Professor are just mentioned, which was a little sad. But that's what it was. Was Devil Hulk introduced and killed in this run? No. So this title started in 2018 or 17. Devil Hulk was introduced in 2001. During the Bruce Jones run, I think. Was it Bruce Jones? His last name is Jones, but he introduces Devil Hulk as an antagonist, something that, like, Banner needs to keep locked away. So I actually really liked how, and back then Devil Hulk was far more sinister. He was like, no, let me out, I'll murder them all. Like, kind of, that was his personality. So Ewing taking that and going like, okay, but what if Devil Hulk finally got into the driver's seat? What would he do? And he made it to where Devil Hulk actually felt responsible for Banner. So he now actually, like, cares. He's not just, like, going around murdering people who has ever hurt Banner. He's just like, no, I need to protect Banner. I need to, like, be the adult in the room, essentially. It's really cute. I do dislike stories where it's just Hulk and Banner. Yeah, so that is... I do hate that as well. I also hate when they just write Hulk as a monster or just, like, personified anger from Banner. It's like, no, he's his own character. Come on, like... Which is a problem I have with the movies, right? Like, every time it's just, oh, like, Hulk is just a monster, blah, blah, blah. But it's so annoying. If you wanted to know what was the secret behind the one below all, I took out a lot of the references because, like, for the panels, every single issue of this comic starts with a quote, and, like, more than half of them are Bible quotes. And there are, like, semi-religious elements that show up in the comic on and off. You have the really on-the-nose comment from one character at the start of the comic run, in which someone says, like, but does God have a Hulk? That was one of the most heavy-handed lines, for sure. For sure. Because the reveal of the one below all is that it is God's Hulk. Or, as the comic calls it, the one above all. So, like, your mileage will vary whether or not you like that twist. Or if you like the whole new lore with the green doors and the below as a whole. Some people dislike it, some people love it. There really is no... Like, whenever you change anything massively within a comic's, like, continuity, Uh, it's just like, you're gonna upset people, right? I don't think I can express anything about that. Right? It's like, I remember reading that reveal and just being like, okay, and then I moved on. I didn't really think of it as like a big twist. One, I had kind of figured it out because of how heavy-handed some of the religious shit were. This book definitely isn't for everyone, you know? Because of the religious stuff, because of the political stuff, I get why some people don't like this book. I've definitely met people who was like, Hulk shouldn't be a comic where you make a statement. It should be a cool action comic. Like, I've met those people. So, like, those people hate the Immortal Hulk run. Because they're like, there's not enough action. Why is Savage Hulk acting like a child? He should be a cool monster. Like, okay, person. Like, you had the Bruce run, or whatever. What was it? Like, the 2006 run, which I hated. But, like, you have that. Heck, you have the current run on Hulk, which is just an action comic. And I kind of hate it. Because they don't continue this off this ending. Like, the new run on Hulk just kind of like, it feels like it takes place in its own continuity. Banner's a mad scientist and has commandeered Hulk's body to destroy shit because he's trying to get revenge on the world. So he treats, like, he's like, keeps Hulk in the mindscape in a cage and pokes him with like a prod in order to make him angry so that like the Hulk body can stay powerful. And I'm like, what the fuck? You give us this like beautiful character driven story and then you turn it into a mindless action comic afterwards with the new writer. Like, fucking hell. I guess joke's on me though, I'm reading it monthly. I'm kind of waiting for there to be a point to all of it. And like, because the current writer is Donny Cates. I don't think bad on Donny Cates as a writer because he writes good action comics. That's kind of his thing. You know? I just think it's unfortunate that his interpretation of the Hulk happens to be after this one. I was really hoping that the next comic would like really deal with like Joe and Savage and Bruce trying to live as a unit and what kind of like, what are they going to do going forward? And maybe have more psychological style villains. That's what I was hoping for. It turning it into a mindless like action comic. I'm like, oh my god. Okay. Like raising a child by throwing it off the cliff by the age of 16. Facts though. I love it. But I hope you all enjoyed. Again, I hope that this like doesn't feel like a replacement for reading the comic, but like maybe is a nice entry point to see if you would like really gel with what this book is doing. Because I know that I personally really did. Like, this is post 2012. This is my favorite comic book. I do have to specify post 2012 because 2012 was the end of Hickman's run of the Fantastic Four. Will I talk about that on the channel? Probably not. We'd be here for days. Because that comic is told like weirdly. But it's fun. But I hope you've all enjoyed. I hope this isn't like too weird of content still on the channel. But I will see you around, everyone.